What's going on, guys? This is Philip Sessions, your public speaking and communications coach. I'm here with Joel Fortner. He is a Christian husband, father of four, president of Chris LoCurto, and a public speaker. And today we are going to talk about how speaking impacts your leadership abilities, both in life and business. And I'm really excited to talk with Joel. We met through actually a client of mine, Lori Jewett. So excited that we could connect here on the podcast, which is an amazing thing about podcast and social media and how you can just connect with like-minded people all throughout the country. But Joel, tell us a little bit more about yourself before we get into the podcast.
Yeah, sure. So I think, thanks for the intro. I think something to add is I live in Middle Tennessee, and last year we moved from Spring Hill, the community of Spring Hill, and we live out in the middle of nowhere now. I'm about an hour away from our office. I'm out, and people ask me, "It's like, what's it like?" I said, "It's out there, out there." And my wife's brother came to visit us. And he said, I thought we lived in the country. He's like, you guys are out there. So there's us and turkeys, cows, and creeks and hollows. And we're tucked down back into a hollow. So my dad of four kids. And so we're outside and clearing overgrowth all the time and mowing and enjoying the sun and enjoying life out in the country.
Nice. I love it. Yeah, we live out in the country. So I told you I live in Greenville, South Carolina, but really I live out in Gray Court, which is about 40 minutes south of Greenville. So it's out in the country, at least for now. Everything seems to be
Yeah.
growing out this way. But we've got we actually just closed on another 9 acres. So we got about 19 acres now and
Oh,
everything.
wow.
So it's,
Fantastic.
yeah, exciting stuff. Got some family land. So yeah, my wife was one of those from the South, got land from the family and all this good stuff. So
Yeah.
totally
Wow.
understand the country life.
Yeah. It's a blessing.
Yes, for sure. So tell us a little bit about this journey of how you got on as president at Chris LoCurto, because I know that's the life and
Yeah,
business
sure.
coaching. But tell us a little bit about that and that journey, how you got there.
Yeah, absolutely. So, for one, it's like going back to college. I discovered this whole thing about personal growth and self improvement, and there was a motivational speaker at the time. His name was Joe Martin, one of the most fired up, extroverted, passionate men I'd ever met. And he was teaching on this thing on purpose in life, and it lit me up, and it stoked a fire inside of me, and that was kind of the beginning of all of that kind of thing, of the whole personal growth thing in life. Well, fast forward in time, I worked for the Air Force as a civilian for a decade, and but always loved personal growth, and I loved business, I loved leadership. I'm one of those people that just naturally gravitates toward leadership. I love building teams and having a vision and accomplishing things. I don't love the grind out of like having to execute all the strategy and grind it out day to day, week to week. That's not really my passion, but I love leading people. Well, my buddy Chris LoCurto, he used to work for Dave Ramsey. He was one of Dave's vice presidents for a long time. And then God called Chris out of Dave's place, and Chris started this business. I came to work with Chris, still working at the Pentagon and doing my own coaching business by this point on the side. And then I started selling everything that Chris was offering at the time. And that was the beginning of the end. The goal became come full time working with Chris. A year later, that happened. We moved from the Washington, D.C. area to Middle Tennessee, and went from wearing a suit at the Pentagon every day to wearing a T-shirt in Chris's house, getting this business building.
Man, completely different. Of course, the Pentagon, we think like super secure, lockdown, and all this stuff, and maybe not a freedom to speak about everything that maybe you're working on there. But I'm going to ask that question here in a second. To all of a sudden now you have this freedom to do pretty much whatever you want because you're, I guess, at this point one of two people within this company. But since I've never had anybody on the Pentagon, I would love to hear, and not necessarily details on exactly what you did perhaps there, but as far as from a communication and speaking perspective, how was the life in Pentagon and how you spoke there perhaps different than where you're at now in entrepreneurship? Because I'm guessing there's drastic differences.
There are culturally.
Mm,
When you work in a giant bureaucracy inside the U.S. federal government, it's the largest organization you're probably ever going to work in. The federal government is a top employer in this country, but also around the world. It's just a giant bureaucracy.
Mm.
So the culture's different, the rhythms are different. But becoming a master at communication is key to leadership. If you can become a better communicator, you're going to go farther in your career. Yes, you've got to know stuff. You need to get smart with what your expertise is, and you need to get smart with what your job is. But the better communicator you become, the better you are. So, I would sit in meetings, and it would take quality communication to advance things, to get goals, to get goals done, to get buy-in done, or get people to buy in, to bring together teams that weren't under my charge, but it took effective communication to get all these teams built and rallying around the same vision and the same goals in order to get more things done. And I was able to successfully navigate that, even within a bureaucracy like the Pentagon. I'm a
Mm.
very relational person. I work very hard to build quality relationships. That's all done through quality communication. So now to this business, sure, we're in a sandbox here in a small business. You get to create whatever you want. We have a mission, though, and we have a vision, and those are our parameters. We have our values and our culture. We're very faith centered within our company. That's just God is very, very important to us. And so we have those parameters, but we've set them, we've established them. And so, but we have this sandbox now that we get to invent whatever we want in terms of serving people as best we can. But communication still holds true here. Whether I'm speaking on a stage, whether I'm speaking in a team meeting, whether I'm speaking in a one-on-one meeting, effective communication is paramount. Of all the clients that we coach, of all the business leaders and the businesses that we work with, the number one thing that holds them back is a lack of high quality communication. And that's one of the main areas where we coach people and help them improve.
And I can completely agree with you that communication is the thing that's the downfall for everybody. And for those that I have a lot of small business owners that listen to the podcast here, and being in a corporate background myself with BMW manufacturing, I see a lot of this bureaucracy and how something that you would think could take one meeting, we'd figure out what we need to do and we would move forward, could take 6 months plus to be able to make happen. So could you give us a scenario perhaps that you can share, or some example that you could share to help us understand how to navigate these waters? Because as a small business owner, it's like you said, it's a sandbox. You're able to kind of make things, you're able to adjust
Mhm.
things, so you can go ahead and purchase something real quick. You don't do that in a bureaucracy. And as you start scaling your business, you need to get a little bit more rigid with your communication and say, hey, here's the process of how we're going to do this, because it can't be like the wild, wild west at some point.
That's
So,
right.
can you give us an example of how to kind of communicate in a structured manner?
So, for one, the more you grow, you're exactly right, Philip. The more controls that you need to put in place, the more processes you need to put in place, because you're trying to keep everything um, moving in a good direction.
Mhm.
You're trying to keep everything organized so it's not chaos as you grow your business. But I mean, in terms of navigating these complexities, is that the more people focused you are as a leader and the less task focused you are, that's the beginning place. Is that you have to be people focused and you also have to be patient. So as you grow and people are, say, used to quick change, they're used to agility. Well, as you grow, things are going to slow down because
Mm.
you have more people on the team. You have more priorities that are operating. You have more meetings. You have more going on within the business. Well, then as a leader, you have to look at, well, how much is on each person's plate? How much is on your plate? How much are you trying to lead and manage? That's where it's like a couple things to pay attention to. One is constantly managing what is on your plate, because you have to leave the room to lead. If you're growing and as a leader, if your plate is growing with task and you're becoming more stressed, more overwhelmed, more busy, more management of email, more phone calls, more follow up, more tasks, you're moving in the wrong direction. So you have to be able to say, okay, my number one job is to lead and communicate.
Mm.
And to do that proactively, not to become task saturated along with your team. If you can manage stuff like this, those are just some key things you've got to do.
Yeah. And I like that you mentioned managing people, not tasks. I think that's something that we don't think about when we're first starting out. We're very task oriented, get these certain things done. And I definitely
Mm-hmm.
have some mentors that talk about, your daily task list, get these certain tasks done. And there's something to that for sure. But as you grow and you start leading teams, it's not necessarily just about, okay, do they have all these tasks that they're doing and moving along? You have to look at those people too, and which really goes back to what you said earlier about relationships and dealing with those relationships. And that is the key to communication. So kind of, I want to extract that a little bit more from you and explain
Sure.
and elaborate on this whole relationship, people kind of thing when it comes to leading and communicating.
Yeah. So leadership is not about management. Leadership is about people. And so I don't like the word manager,
Mm,
because when you're a manager, that means people report to you. Well, you're a leader now. And so we don't need to say, I don't like that. I don't like the language employees. I don't like that. I think it's too sterile. I think you're a leader and you lead people. So when you add people to your team or add people to your business, look at how much expense you're adding if you're in business, to your P&L, your income statement. Well, if we're just adding people in order to get more done, I think we're doing it in the wrong way. Rather than saying, okay, what's my vision? Where am I headed in this business? What are the strategies that I'm putting down in place to get to that vision? And what resources do we need? Well, we need, for one, people. So people also, they're human beings. There's nothing more important in your business than the people who are there. And you have to say, look at it from just a dollar standpoint. You're now obligating yourself to thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars of expense. That's people. So if you're staying super busy as a leader, who's going to lead those very expensive, very valuable people to success? If we hire people and just say, we're just going to hire people, we think that they're talented, we're going to hire all the right skill sets. Now come in, we onboard them for 30 minutes, and now get to work and get moving. And it blows up in our face because there's no direction. The leaders are too busy to pay attention to the people, to set people up for success. So as a leader, it's your job to make other people successful, not the other way around. Your people aren't there for you. So entrepreneurs learn to make this mindset shift. Entrepreneurs say, I can do it. I can build this thing. I can get it to market. I can sell it. And then who do I need to help me make this thing happen? Well, eventually that mindset changes from who do I need to help me make this thing happen to now we're running a business here. We have a mission. We have a vision. We have strategies. And this thing starts to mature because it becomes a we thing, not a me thing.
Yeah, that's wow. Another great thing that it is about us, about we versus me for sure. And that's how you really get that buy-in. And I want to go play devil's advocate a little bit because I know,
Sure.
especially at the corporate level, but we'll even see in the small business owner's perspective that at some point, okay, wow, I've got so many expenses and we're seeing AI and all these cool little things coming out. Well, why don't I just automate that rather than having a person be in this place? What would you say to that?
Fantastic. Look inside your company. Look at the history of BMW. Look how much used to be done by a person that's now automated. So I've been in some of the most advanced manufacturing facilities in the world. I mean, going in a stealth fighter jet manufacturing facility is pretty advanced. And so when you're look at the amount of automation. So if you can automate, wonderful. So what I don't want to hear I don't want anyone to hear me saying is, hey, hire people at all costs. No, no,
Mm,
no. That's where we go back to what's the vision that we're headed? Where are we going to? Now, how do we get there? Some of it's going to be outsource it. Some of it's going to be automate it. Some of it's going to be I need people in order to do this. So it's a matter of what resources, human or non-human, do you need to actually achieve the goals and get to the vision that you've stated of where this business is headed. So vision for me is always destination. Vision isn't this dreamy pie in the sky type of floaty thing that's out there. To me, it's concrete. It's written down to say, where am I going to? Now, how the heck are we going to get there? And some things, Philip, you need to automate.
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe you'll dive into that a little bit more because I know automation is a huge thing that we're seeing, not just from the corporate level, but we're also seeing within small business owners. We're seeing how to automate customer service, how to automate doing all your social media posting, putting people through funnels and all of this good stuff, which there are definitely things that are great about that and I think are needed, like you said, but there's certain things
Sure.
that you need to keep that human touch in there. So can you just explain a little bit more of what you, in your opinion, think that we should and shouldn't automate?
Yeah, I mean, it's situational, for every business and every team. But the place to start with it is what's your mission? So for our business, we're a coaching organization. We have decades and decades and decades of business and leadership experience on this team. We have entrepreneurs. We know what it's like to do business. We know how the blood, sweat, and tears aspects of it, and we've learned from failure, and we know how to do all this stuff really well. So we need to do what you and I are doing right now. We need to do the one-to-one. I
Mm,
can't automate Justin and Aaron on my team. I just can't automate their brain. But you know what I can automate? A lot of marketing. You know what I can automate? A lot of our admin tasks and logistics things that we do, a lot of behind the scenes things that we do. That's where it allows the people to work in their strengths because we've said, okay, this stuff we can actually automate. We can have software. But now what roles do we need that actually require a human? And this is going to be different for every business, but we've got to come back to what is your mission? Why do you exist? For us, by our mission, we're always going to do one-to-one coaching. And as a coach and being in the coaching industry, I follow a lot of coaches. And so there's a program that I follow pretty closely that they're beta testing a new AI type of coach. And so it's going to be like I'm sitting on the outside watching it as I'm fascinated to see what they do with it because AI is still it's new and it's really tricky and it's
mhm.
constantly evolving and changing. And can you contain it? Can you get it to do what you really want it to do? But I love the innovation that this company is using. But I think it's great to experiment with that stuff. But even as I watch them experiment with AI in a coaching business, what I know of this company is they're very grounded in why they exist. They're very grounded in their mission. It's don't stray away from that. So, like, we can't stray away from our business and say, you know what? Our business is built on relationships and very deep relationships that we form with our clients. For us, I can't outsource it and I can't automate it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you could always go to your client and just say, "Hey, go ahead and talk to Chat GPT. Let them know everything about you, and then we'll work together." No, I'm
It's
just
actually
kidding.
fascinating the number of coaching organizations that when ChatGPT was about to launch, that they
Mhm.
were trying to get ahead of it and they were trying to position their clients to see, hey, ChatGPT isn't your cure all. They're not a replacement for us. Never once in my mind have I ever thought that our clients, who I know so incredibly well, are
Mhm.
going to see AI as a replacement for our team.
Yeah.
I think I'm so proud of our team. This is from the coaches all the way to the admin team. We're so customer service focused. The amount of value that we bring, I just don't think AI or automation is ever going to eclipse it. That may be
Yeah.
prideful of me to say that, but it's how much I believe in what we do.
No, and that's a big part of it too. You have to believe in what you do and really communicate that and show it. I can just tell the way you speak about that and express yourself that you truly do mean that. And thinking of those people that really were like, "Hey, we're going to try and get ahead of this," and I say that with quotes, that they're trying to get ahead of it but they're afraid. They're afraid that they haven't put in enough effort to be able to
Mm,
retain those clients. And that's a pretty sad spot to be in if that's how you feel as a coach or as a business, and not just coaches, but a business in general, that you had to try and get ahead of something to almost put something else down to bring yourself up. That never works well.
yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah, which actually is kind of a good question. We'll make a little segue here back to leadership. Sometimes we'll see, and this is probably more from an employee to manager perspective that we'll see this, but it often feels like the manager is just doing whatever they need to go get that big bonus check or that whatever
Mm,
commission, whatever that looks like, and they're lifting themselves up rather than lifting that team up. And what would you say? Let's start with the employee first. And what would you say to them, maybe to encourage them to keep going, even if they are dealing with a manager like this? Then we'll move forward from there.
yeah. So that's a tough spot to be in. And in my career, it's like I've been in that spot many times. My encouragement is one, is be very diligent in your job today. Serve where you're at. Add value where you're at. Control what you can control. You can't control your manager or leader that's self-focused and isn't a leader that subscribes to the motto I used before of leadership is about making other people successful, not you. It's not about you as a leader. Well, not everybody works for a leader that thinks that way. You know what? Then you can't control that. What can you control? What do you do in your job all the time? Might it be difficult? Yeah, Joel, but it's frustrating. I get it. I totally get it. I know what it's like to show up on day one at a job and nobody knows you're coming. They've just forgotten. You have no computer. You don't know where you're sitting. I know what this is like. And then imagine what that was like to work on a team and what the culture is like and how stressful is it like? Because that day one experience was just symptomatic of so many other things that were broken in the organization. It doesn't matter. You're not always going to be in circumstances that you like. You're not always going to love your job every day, but it's consistently day in, day out, week in, week out. How can you serve who you work with on this team? How can you serve the company? How can you serve the mission? Because we've got to get beyond ourself. Is that our at times it's like, I know this is going to be controversial and some people may stop listening right now when I say this because I'm going to offend you, but it's like we can be too selfish. And I have gotten enough life experience to realize, wow, Joel's selfishness is the number one thing that holds me back. Well, my
Mm,
selfishness causes, I don't like this, Philip, and I don't like that, and I don't like this manager, and I don't like this leader. You know what? Can you control any of that?
no.
No. But you know what you can learn to do? Lead up. Read books about leading up. Find out about, try to build a relationship, try to build rapport with that manager that you don't like. Don't just divorce yourself from them. Try to figure it out about how can you actually figure it, because the thing is you may learn something. You may be making some assumptions about your manager that are just that. They're just assumptions, but gosh, you can sure give it a try.
Mm. Man, so many good nuggets there. And I really like that you brought out that, like, hey, stop being selfish. And that is something that I found in myself also. Whenever I focus on me, what I'm getting or not getting, that it takes away from everybody else around me. And it really brings my energy down and makes it more negative, but also brings the energy down around me. So if we
Yeah.
focus more on that mission, as you keep bringing up, and I'm definitely going to talk about that here in a minute, but I want to flip the script now to that leader. Maybe it's a leader outside of this leader, because I'm going to guess most of the time, if there's a leader like this, they're only focused on themselves. That's pretty much where they're going to stay at. And so I'd rather focus on maybe a leader that's equivalent to this person or even the leader above them. And how can they help out the rest of the organization when they do have a bad leader or a bad manager like this person?
So are you saying like a leader that say is has a team and
Mhm.
that leader has a bad leader? Is
No,
that what
sorry.
you're
So,
talking
so
about?
I'm just saying kind of like the middle management. And then, so let's just, so we can make this more simple. Let's go with a middle manager and another middle manager that doesn't have the direct reports how can he influence that same level of leadership when
Oh, I
that middle
see.
manager is not being a good leader?
Yeah, so actually there's a program that we do. It's called the Key Leader Program, and these kinds of situations come up a lot where it is about it's ultimately it's like you may they know they may never get there
Mm,
because you may think the way that you do and they think the way that you do, and they're not in a place to be influenced by you. But
mm,
what I focus on, this was me operating within my former career of government bureaucracy. It's like the government's like a big business. That's the way it operates. Same kind of issues, same things we see in business show up there too. So it's about relationships. It's, are you putting in the time? Are you pursuing that relationship? Are you trying to figure out what makes them tick? So I and our team, we're huge into personality styles here. And the DISC framework is the one that we prefer. Do you know their personality style? Do you understand the way that they think? Do you understand the way that they communicate? Because how you think is you, how you communicate is you. Focus on the other person, and then that's where you may find you get some traction, because no one has invested the time, no one's ever invested the problem solving ability that you're bringing to the table and been so intentional about trying to work with this other middle manager that may not think the way that you do. It has to become a priority rather than they're gruff, they're frustrating, they're bitter, they're negative, they're a big victim, I don't like all these things. Well, now you're starting to make it too much about you rather than, you know what, we could achieve more if we could get our teams working better together. Let's use that as an example. Well,
mm,
in order for that to happen, you've got to get the leaders working better together.
mm.
So you have to be kind of tenacious about this because you have a bigger picture in mind and a larger goal in mind.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's such a good thing to be able to look at those personalities and do that. I like disc assessments as well. I've taken several of them and I'm like, man, that is spot on with who I am. And if you can understand what your personality is like, one, it can help you when other people are engaging with you. But then the same thing, if you know what their personality is, so that way you can engage with them in their way,
Exactly.
communicate with their language. And I look at it a lot like love languages in a way. If
Hmm.
mine is acts of service and my wife is not doing acts of service towards me, I'm not going to feel loved the same way that she wants quality time. So I just need to spend quality time with her. And that's how
Yeah.
she feels loved. But I could do acts of service all day long. And while she knows in the back of her mind that I'm trying to show her love, she really doesn't feel that love. And so it's the same thing with this personality of the disc assessments, that you have to speak their language for them to really truly understand. It's really almost like speaking a foreign language in a
Oh,
way.
it can
Yeah.
be because it's such a practice to learn to lean in someone else's direction,
Yeah.
because by as people, we communicate the way that we prefer to be communicated with. So
Hmm.
if we're a bullet point person, we will communicate in bullets. If we're a give me all the detail person, we will share all the detail with everybody else and frustrate the daylights out of them. So it starts with understanding your personality, and then where your maturity and immaturity in your personality, it starts with us, and then we start to look to other people, and we practice leaning in other people's direction. And this is where when we go deep with this information and when we coach, and
Mm.
this is what changes chaotic communication to high quality communication. Well, when it comes to decision making and quality decision making, you have to have quality communication in your team and through your culture. And when you don't, your decision making tends to go all over the place, or you end up making decisions that you're like, why did we do that? Why did we ever decide that, Philip? Or whose idea was this? Because we
Yeah.
didn't have high levels of quality communication along the way. We had too many meetings and too much email communication and not enough perspective gaining, and we made some bad decisions.
And then you go meeting after meeting after meeting, and the old joke that we're gonna have a meeting to talk about the meeting and
Yeah,
everything. So,
and that is bureaucracy at its finest.
Exactly. It's so frustrating. And so when it comes to these decisions we need to make, and you've been mentioning this whole time, so I really want you to dive into this, but the mission is so important for us to be able to look back to. It's really our guiding principle, just like for those of us as Christians, that's the Bible for us, and Jesus and the principles that he taught and
Yeah.
everything. But the mission of the company is that guiding compass for us at that point. So if we're kind of like, okay, let's say we're five votes on each side. Well, which one aligns with the mission at the end of the day? Which one more closely aligns? That could be a way for us to bring the tiebreaker there. But explain to us why you put so much emphasis on mission, because you've said that word probably 10 or 15 times
Yeah.
already today, which is awesome. I think it's awesome. No problem with that. But you mentioned that. So clearly that's super important for y'all and what y'all coach on. So tell us more about that.
Yeah. Because without mission, you have no direction. You don't even know who you are. Well, if you don't know who you are as a company or as a team, where are you going to go? Either nowhere or everywhere. Was
Mm,
that good? We can't do that. So things like having a clearly defined mission and a clearly articulated mission that you talk about all the time as a leader. That's where it comes back to the communication piece. Is that when you know why you exist and your team knows why they exist, decisions start to align with that mission. The mission, the vision, goals, strategies, core values, define culture, all of that is meant to do one thing: train decision making within your team. This is why we exist. Yeah, but Joel, we did this over here. That's very good and interesting, and I'm happy for you. That's not how we do it here. We're going this direction. We're going to this place if it's your vision. This is how we do it. We have to corral decision making within teams. We have
mm.
to corral communication. Otherwise, we're shotgun approach or we're siloed as an organization and they're going that way and the other team's going that way. Why are we doing that? Well, because I don't believe in their ideas. Our ideas are better, or we do things better over here, and we'll just go this direction and it'll be fine and we're going to work it out. Or there's a very controlling leader that wants to make decisions like that. It'd be like, we're just going to go that direction and we'll ask for forgiveness later. It's controlling to be that way. So mission that's why it's so important. It's why you exist. So when you think about it as a personal, just as a person, what's your personal mission statement? Why do you exist? Then you can start to see, where am I even going in my life? So if you're a believer, why do you exist? Why did God put you here? To do what? And to be what? And to be with him in what way? That's the beginning of shaping decision making, whether it's for yourself or it's for a team.
Man, so good once again, and I totally agree with you that we have to have that mission so we can create those right decisions, so we can go in that right path. And so those that have bought into this whole idea of having a mission and vision within their company, they totally get it. But I know there's a lot of people that are on the fence, and I'm sure you've worked with them before, where they're like,
Sure.
that just sounds like a lot of work. Oh, we're only three people in. We don't really have a big organization. There's really no point in creating this. It's just more work than's really necessary at this point.
Yeah.
Give us some advice on that of really doubling down or whatever about why that mission statement needs to be there, no matter if you're a team of one or you're a team of 100.
Yeah, whether you're a person or whether you're three, don't you make decisions every day?
Yes.
Yes. How are you basing those decisions? On what? And or a team of three, and you've hired two awesome people, and you probably knew them because you're super small business. How do they make decisions every day? They're making hundreds and hundreds based on what? That's
Mm,
why it's never too early to define these pieces. I get it. I get it of being a small business entrepreneur, especially where you're just trying to get something created. You're trying to grow this thing and it's consuming all of your life and it's your passion and it's exciting. It's your baby. And you're just like, let's just go, 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 go. I don't have time for culture and core values and direction. And I'll worry about that stuff when I'm 10 people or 20. It's like, that's an assumption you're making because the way that you think today or your habits today what's going to change them? So, to be a little more clear, if your mindset today is, that's not important, I'll put it off until 10 people, what's going to have changed in the way that you think and your habits that all of a sudden at 10 people that you're going to make these things important? It's like, why do you believe that about yourself? Because I'll tell you, when you get to 10 people, believe me, you're going to have plenty to do. There's going to be a lot on your plate. And you may be more stressed out and overwhelmed at 10 people than you are with 3 people.
Mm.
And you'll be looking back being like, man, I sure had more time in my life for my family and to go kick a soccer ball around or go fishing back when I had 3 people. Now I've got 10 people and I've got all this task on my plate because I've not delegated and trained people. And I've got a lot of money moving around now. And I've got AR and AP and I've got a P&L that doesn't make sense to me. And I've got all these people and half of them have drama that they're bringing to the team. And I'm trying to keep everything moving forward. And I'm trying to chase money down from clients who won't pay. And then I've got all the stressors of all this going on my plate. And then I'm doing dinner at night and then I'm hopping back on my laptop to go to work. And you think you're going to have time and you're going to make things like this important? Probably not. It starts today. You start changing your thinking and your habits today.
Man, and I like that, and I completely agree. I feel like I'm saying this the whole episode, but I do completely agree. And one other thing, what I love about the mission and values and all of these things that are alike is that you can put blame on that, if anything. Where because as a leader, sometimes you feel like, man, I'm really telling people no a lot of times, or I'm really it really feels like I'm not listening to them or taking their opinion in. But rather than blaming it on yourself or blaming it on other leaders or putting somebody down, you're saying, hey, the reason why we're not moving forward with your idea, while it is a great idea, is because it doesn't align with the mission. And now you're blaming this external party, almost, so to speak. And it makes your job as a leader and the way you communicate that much easier because it's a core principle that everybody has agreed upon because they decided to start working at the company or
Yeah.
your company, and now you can blame it on that core principle versus you having to be the bad guy or bad girl,
Yeah.
bad lady, and say that.
Yeah. Yeah. And you bring up a really powerful point, Philip. And that is the importance of defining things. Is that when you've defined mission, vision, strategies, and you've built them out and you've documented them, your culture is well defined and communicated. Expectations are well defined and communicated to a team member or to a team. The more it's defined and it's communicated clearly, and we all have agreement that, yes, I raise my hand, I see and understand our mission and our vision and all these things I just laid out. You never have to be the bad guy as a leader. All you have to do is bring people right back to the previously defined stuff and say things like, hey, is that how you've come to know that we do it here? Is that the kind of attitude that we have here? Oh,
Mm.
you're micromanaging me. I should be able to be emotional and be angry. And it's like, hey, you can choose to be that way all day long. You just can't do it here. When
Mm.
you've defined it all as a leader, it makes your job when it comes to conflict and tough conversations and awkward situations so much easier
Yeah.
because you can simply take them back to, hey, but isn't this, remember we talked about this? Or remember in your onboarding, we covered these pieces. And then it becomes oh, shoot, well, yes. So that's the same kind of thing. So to take your example as well, I would say is rather than even blame, if you're like a teaching leader and you've got your teaching hat on,
Mm.
someone could be presenting an idea and you could be discussing it with them and then say, hey, so it's like, so help me understand, Philip, take your idea. How do you see it fitting with our defined mission? Like, what do you
Mm.
see there?
Yeah.
Well, let's see. You know what? Can I get back to you on that? Absolutely. Totally. And then they go back and they may come back to you and say, you know what? I actually don't see it aligning with the mission. Does it need to? Is it that important? And then you're able to have these wonderful conversations with people, but now you become a teaching leader.
Yeah.
because you're now teaching your team member, oh, shoot, I never factored that in, but I should be. It's not just for the leader to care about the mission. Defining this stuff is meant for the team members more than anyone else. It's meant for everyone to adopt.
Yeah, yeah. Like we mentioned earlier with that bottom up approach, we talk more about that employee. So if you have a decision that needs to be made, go back to the mission, the vision, the strategy that y'all have, and point to those things. It's a great way, especially if you're in a larger corporation. This is going to help you even more because you can say, "Hey, this is why I'm saying we need to do this. This is where it fits in. This is where we're trying to go with it." And point out those things. And that's a lot harder to say, well, no, we're not going to do that. Because
Yeah,
how can
exactly.
you say if this goes along and moves us forward in our vision and our mission, how can you deny that and not necessarily deny me of doing this project, but deny that project within our company or whatever that situation looks like? But it's helpful for both sides from up, top down and bottom up approach.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's exactly what it's meant to do.
Yeah.
It's meant to empower people and help them to make smarter decisions within the culture of the organization they work in.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Well, Joel, man, I'm glad you explained that. So, for those of you that don't have your mission, vision, strategy, all that good stuff set up, go set it up. You just heard us talk about this last 10 minutes about why it's so important and how it can help you as the leader and business owner, but it'll also help out your leadership team and those that are not on the leadership team be able to work and be more effective to help your company move forward. So, definitely go back and listen and implement that for yourself. And Joel, this has been awesome. And I want to get to our last question here, real quick. And that question is, if you could only share one message for the rest of your life, what would that message be?
Pursue God and less of self is what it would be. It would
Mm,
be, I mean, even if I'm sure there's plenty of your listeners that are not believers, if this doesn't apply to you, it doesn't apply to you. But for those who are, continue to try to empty you of you. You will become a better leader. You will become a better spouse. You'll become a better parent, a better friend. You will have less anxiety in your life and you will find more freedom because it's like the Apostle Paul spoke so much about your identity in your Savior and then being able to shed self where he becomes your identity. There's a lot, it's like to care is dangerous. So the things we care about the most produce a lot of fear and stress. Well, what if that's you? What if you're who you care the most about? And this is like, man, Joel, this is heavy. This is really difficult. It is exactly right. It is. It's super difficult. And I'm working on it all the time of trying to get rid of Joel so that I can be better for people in my life and I can be more attuned to what God may have for me.
mm. Yeah, that's so great. And I think when we focus on ourselves, and just an example, I think of when people come into our DMs and cold DM us about this new great opportunity that they have. We oftentimes can't stand it because we know what it really is they're basically just trying to get money from us. They're not there to help us. And so that's the same concept here that when you only focus on yourself, that shows in your leadership, in your communication, and people don't want to work with you and help you out. So
Yeah.
definitely, give it up to God, let God take over and let him be in control versus you trying to be in control and being self-centered. Really
Yeah.
like that message
Amen.
a lot. Yeah. So Joel, if people want to get to know you more, maybe even get some coaching from you, where is the best place for them to reach out to be able to get in contact with you?
Yeah, it's ChrisLoCurto.com. So that's Chris, CHRIS, LoCurto, LoCurto.com, ChrisLoCurto.com.
All right. And is there a social media platform that maybe they can check you out as well?
Well, you can find me everywhere. Just search Joel Fortner and look for me if there's a picture here for people to see. Or even all of our stuff, our Chris LoCurto stuff is all over Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn as well.
Okay, awesome. Well, Joel, man, thanks for being on
Thank
the
you.
show, giving us all this value. And guys, make sure that you go give Joel a follow. He's definitely got a lot of great content out there and clearly just gave us a ton of value here. So make sure to show him some love and give him a follow there.
Yeah, thank you so much. This was a total pleasure to be on the show.